Hey, good morning, everybody. This is Trendy John from Simpler Trading. We are going to go ahead and start with this week's broad market analysis. If you guys would go ahead and hit that like button, and if this is helping you, please drop a testimonial. I hope that I'm helping you guys in this market. It's not been easy, has it? It's been absolutely crazy. And even though the market's been pushing up very nicely, the question is, are we just going to sit here and chop for quite a bit? Or this weekend, we are really pushing nicely in crypto. Does this mean risk on, risk off? We really don't know until the market opens. But what I am going to do is go over things that can at least help you understand where some levels are. My train of thought during this next week coming up. And without this broad market analysis, I really wouldn't know what to do, to be very honest with you. So I've been doing this for a very long time, and I hope you appreciate it. So go ahead and hit that like button. A couple reminders: Melissa is out this week. She is on a cruise. I hope that she is enjoying some well-deserved time with her and her family. And then for me, um, starting on Tuesday, my grandson will be here, Elijah. I can't wait. So I'll be making sure that, I'm putting in hard work at night, getting these charts and stuff ready for you guys. And then on the open, be here 30 minutes before the open. We'll go over the plan for the day. And since Melissa's not here, I'll be going over the ES and the Nasdaq futures every single morning, like I always do. I'll be going over SPX, and then I'll pick a chart or two with entries and stops for the day that I'm looking at. So that would include anything from Apple all the way down to AA. Who knows, right? So whatever is setting up, so I'll be doing that as well. So we'll see you 30 minutes before the open. Let's go ahead and get started with this broad market analysis. We are going to be starting off with this week's major U.S. economic reports and Fed speakers. Monday, the 12th, you guys can see right here, we have a Fed head speaking, and then we have the monthly U.S. federal budget. And then on Tuesday, May the 13th, we have consumer price index, core CPI year over year. And then on Wednesday, we have Christopher Waller, Chair Philip Jefferson speaks, and San Francisco Fed President Mary. So Fed head day, talking heads, if you will. Thursday, May the 15th, looks pretty busy. A lot of stuff going on here. You guys can see that. I believe Jerome is speaking. He is right here, first thing in the morning. So this is Eastern time. So this is before the market even opens. We could definitely see some volatility in the market around this. So just be prepared on Friday Eve. Again, core PPI year over year. A lot of Fed speaking, just a lot going on Thursday. And then Friday, we have import price index minus fuel, housing starts, building permits, and then consumer sentiment coming in as well. So looking over this, why this is important, because it creates volatility in the market. I really, really practice not sitting on my hands, but there are two different ways to approach this. One, we find our levels, we wait for price to get there, and we trade off of that level. So a lot of these circumstances that happen, or these events that happen, really set up for great trades, especially in futures. And so I really like to demonstrate that, but I also want you to be aware you don't have to trade into these. Just know that they can cause some volatility. Okay. All right. The next thing that I'm going to be looking at is earnings for this week. And there's a couple names on here, that I'm definitely interested in, like Baba. We started our leaps right before the beginning of the year, and they went up. Not only did I trim almost all the position, but I left some on, and they were up 1,000%. And I believe that trade that I left on went from 1,000% and let me just double check it. Let me look on my phone here if I can. Last time I looked, it was somewhere between like 150 to 300%, depending on the day. So I'm definitely looking forward to BABA earnings. Let's see here. Yeah, currently up about 146%. And again, we still have until I think January or March. So definitely interested there. Walmart, man, I tell you what, like again, it's all about the technicals, but Walmart, Sam's, I went to Sam's to pick up, that's all we have in the area, unfortunately, no Costco where I live. But I went by there on Saturday to pick up a few things before my grandson gets here, and it was absolutely insane. uh, I don't live in a big city, but when it gets busy, it gets busy. I know we have a lot of tourists coming in and stuff like that, but Walmart's just never slowing down. So I need to look at the charts. I need to see what's up. I know Melissa's in this long term. I know she got herself in around one of the lower yearly trendy edges and has been doing really well. So definitely on my radar. And then coming in on Thursday is Kava, one of my favorites as well. John Deere. I love to trade this. When I look at the lineup for this week, I'm actually really looking forward to Thursday. So Thursday we got all the Fed heads speaking, Jerome, a lot of stuff going on, and then my favorite names are also on here. But check this schedule and see if there's anything that you're currently in, just so that you're aware, or if you're getting into a trade that might be impacted by something that is reporting this week. It's just something you might want to know. Okay. All right, so the next thing we're going to be looking at is going to be SPY, and we'll be looking at the bigger picture. And one thing that you'll notice about this week, and remember, guys, I got a new PC, so I'm kind of dealing with a couple things with a few logins and things like that. But instead of using TradingView, I went ahead and just stuck with Thinkorswim, at least for this week until I recover my TradingView. I just haven't not got around to it, but this is also convenient without having to move over to different platforms. A couple things I want to show you here on the quarterly is I'm using the last 5 years for my coefficient. So that's just a fancy word of talking about my fib levels here. I'm anchoring from that 5 year mark down here up into the high. You'll see that this year the quarterly broke down. It came down into the 50 of those past 5 years. It bounced very nicely. It turned into a hammer. And I know that we still have, over a good month before the quarter even closes. So this candle can change, but as of right now, it went from something that looked really disgusting to something that looks very hopeful. And I say hopeful because it's not promising in the fact that we still have a long time before this market, or sorry, before this candle closes. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's for sure going to be bullish or not. So again, we wait till the candles close depending on the time frame that I'm looking at. Right now, though, this is an inside candle and it has turned into a hammer. And the thing that I would point out to you guys is, again, measuring the 5 years, we're in what we call the extreme bull channel, which is above the 23.6. And then on our secondary fibs, that is anchoring from this point to the downside, is this 618. Okay. And you can see that right there. So again, that 618 is something that price needs to get above. Um, and if it can, then, things look really, really, really good. Now, I wanted to see at least 3 weeks above the 618. Well, this week actually marks that third week, and we'll go into what that looks like. So far as the quarter goes, just a couple notes here. Overall, in the bullish channel, and bulls have gained the 618 of the high to low of this year. The two major levels for me are 563 and 547 and a half. Basically, what I'm saying is if you're a long-term trader, like me, where you have, part of your portfolio and leaps and stuff like that, I tend to like really base that on this chart, not your smaller time frames. And anything between these two levels for me is just, day trading type stuff or weekly trading levels. Okay, I would expect 563 to be resistance until it's not. That's about where we are, and 547 and a half to be support if we were to get down into that level. Okay. I would like to see 3 weeks above, as I mentioned just a few seconds ago. And the reason why is because a lot of times 3 weeks will create a pivot. That pivot, let me go ahead and show you. So if we go into a weekly time frame, a couple things here is we had 1 week up, second week up, the third week was up for maybe a day, and then the candle itself rested and closed on an inside candle. What that means is it closed on the inside body of this candle here. Okay, so it's an inside week. That third week, what I would like to see is that we are going to push uh, inside and up, or inside and down. And what I like about this formation is that we're able to kind of do like this over under thing intraday wise. And what that means is you want to look at the body. So the top of the body here, find that, just mark it. All right. And anytime we go up and over 566, This is an area from an intraday perspective. I want to be over that and moving to the upside for targets on smaller time frames to the upside. And I feel better as a bull when we can get above that level. Okay. Now, inside and down, it'd be underneath the 618, and primarily it would be right under here around 562. So if we start breaking down below 562, let that be the under level. So again, if we're at 562 and breaking down, then I'm expecting the market to go sideways to down into a level that I deem necessary for buyers to come into using technical analysis. So again, guys, 566 kind of gives us that nice look for a possible inside and up. And again, you're just anticipating because, for example, if this happened on a Monday, just like I was showing you on a quarterly, I want 3 weeks above this. And this formation is based off a weekly. And if it's only Monday, that doesn't mean jack. You have to, it would have to look like this by the end of Friday to be a formation that I'm looking for, or it would have to be looking like something like this, and it would be needing to look like that by the end of Friday. So really, again, from a weekly perspective, I'm telling you what I'd like to see, and it doesn't start right. Those levels don't start that process or that formation until it either breaks above this level here or it breaks below that 562. Okay, everything else is just kind of chop, if you will. All right. Let's go ahead and go to QQQ. I want to look at the bigger picture as well. And, as far as the weekly goes, just real quick, let's make sure on the weekly everybody understands our major levels. I just went over them. They were right here. So what I'm using is this 23.6 in here, and I'm also using the 618. So between these two, again, just bigger time frame, weekly time frame. I'd expect buyers to show up, down here and right here. I expect this to be resistance. If we gap up tonight, I would use the 76.4 as our next target to the upside. So turn this on real quick, and you guys will see that that's around 582. Now that's a pretty far stretch. It'd be nice if we get there, but there are levels like 575 that would be resistance until proven otherwise as well. All right. And as we drop down into lower time frames on the ES futures, I'll kind of show you what our zones are looking like, what our triggers are, and so forth. Okay. So this is just SPY, and then we'll look at the Qs. All right, so QQQ, same thing. I'm going to use Thinkorswim. It looks the same. I anchored my coefficients down here from a 5-year mark. This is a nice trend. Everybody can see that. Price just merely came back into the 50, just like the SPY. And then it pushed up very, very nicely. Matter of fact, our indicators, the trendy edges on both the SPY and the Qs were where they needed to be. That was a buy trigger for the long term. It's working out well. This is a beautiful hammer. Just like the SPY, though, it's not closed. The quarterly still has quite some time. This candle can change at any point. It is resting not only in the primary, so the extreme bull channel, and that's very positive for bulls, but it is kind of stuck here at the 618. Basically, the 618, the secondary, everyone, is just us placing our fibs here and here, and we're measuring on the way up. And this is the golden fib. And it is this, secondary, but very important part of this trend because this hammer is now has broke that entire down range that was created according to trendy Fibonacci. Now, when I zoom in here, you're going to notice, unlike, and I could be off just a tad, but I'm pretty sure that, the Qs are not above the 618. They're having a hard time. So unlike the SPY, when we break this down and we go into the weekly, it's not creating a base above there yet. And again, I could be off just a tad. We could be over this level. I'd have to double check. But same formations going on here. We had 1 week up, 2 weeks up, and then we closed on the inside of this body. Same thing here. What I would do is find this body, and I'd create a little alert above here, and you could do the same thing on the SPY. And this just lets me know if price goes above this level here, then around 489, then we're going inside and up, and this could continue to the upside, towards 498, 500, all the way up into 505 or so. Okay. So that's what's going on to the upside. What about the downside? I don't necessarily want to think about going short from a weekly standpoint, unless it breaks down underneath the body of last week's candle, which is at around 484 and a half. So again, you have these two major levels, and if I just create an alert at or above on one and at or below on the other, then my phone's going to ping and I'm going to know, all right, what that means. So again, everything between that is just, it's intraday kind of scalp type trading. And then when we get above that level, it's sideways to up. And when we get below the level I spoke about, it's sideways to down. Everything between is just a trading range. Again, if we gap up, we can use the 76.4. We could just use some fibs. We can use some formations on smaller time frames. But if I come over here and turn on the 76, that at least gives us the next fib level, which comes in around 508. All right, so quite some distance away. That's why I went ahead and gave you some levels to the upside, like 497 and then 501. And then up here towards 508 would be your targets. Okay. To the downside, your major levels, I made this a lot wider because the Qs tend to really move if they need to. So on an unexpected move to the downside, that's really sharp. 455 needs to hold, and again, 488 is your major level this week. It's resistance until proven otherwise. But if we break above there, I talked about those targets as well. Okay. All right, so the next thing I'm going to be looking at is going to be the dollar. And the way that I found it here on Thinkorswim, I've actually never looked it up. I had to type DXY and then look down this list here. And I believe this is it here. It's the same numbers that I've been using. Um, but this is what I came up with. This is what your chart looks like in the room. Your two major levels this week are 102.5 and 97.4. I'm still expecting a lower zone if we break below 97, but notice that we came into this buy zone here. Price is pushing up, and it actually pushed into the 23.6, and it stalled. So this is a bear channel. We have several things going on. We have a trendy edge here. We have the 23.6 here. We have the cloud here. So although the dollar has found some love in a zone, which is what we would expect, it's actually pushed into resistance on Friday. So this tells me that we could be looking at a gap up tonight potentially, but again, we'll see. Not a big deal if I'm wrong or right. Just observing what I see here on the dollar. Again, guys, if we take out 97, I'm still looking at the dollar pushing into 96, 94 levels. And if for some reason it were to push really hard, I'd expect it to drop from this golden pocket. The reason why, there's a lot of reasons. We have a trendy edge behind there. It is the golden pocket. We also have formations in here. And most likely, if you were to look at volume profile, you'd probably see some volume around that area as well. Okay, so again, this would be a nice rejection area for me. And right now we are seeing the bounce into resistance. Let's go ahead and move down. As far as the TNX is concerned, this one was odd. Maybe one of you guys can help me. Once I get TradingView up, I probably won't use Thinkorswim, but maybe I will. Maybe I'll just stay on Thinkorswim because it's easy instead of like flopping back and forth. But when I put in TNX on here, I was coming up with this chart, but the only thing is it's only reading uh, on the quarterly, and it is this one here. I was trying to find numbers that actually made sense. See, these numbers don't make sense. I mean, it's trading at 4.23. So I know I found it. Oh, I had to type in 10-year like this. And then I looked over here and I saw this guy right here. But notice it looks like the skew. And I was like, well, I just need to go to a weekly, but that was not working. I don't actually see candles until I get to the quarterly. On TradingView, you can actually look at it on a weekly. But these numbers are right. I'm still expecting the 10-year or the TNX to come down towards 380 to 330. But it is coming close into support. Basically, I just want to see this go sideways. I'm not really concerned unless we start to break above the trendy edge, which is around 4.5, and then potentially we could see towards 5. Okay. So right now, though, not much that I'm considering about the 10-year. It's just, it's where it needs to be. On the skew, again, using Thinkorswim here, so it's going to look just a tad bit different. Let's look at the weekly. There we go. And the way that I have this marked for you is pretty straightforward. So this level right here, when we come into that, we usually get a nice pop for about 5 days. Well, we came into it last week. We did get that pop. It was a nice week last week, made a little bit of money. But it still closed down a little bit lower. Um, this is the zone that we've been using for the last year and a half to kind of trade within. Risk off when the skew's up here, risk on for about 5 days when it hits this. And if it keeps dropping, that means more fear is coming into the market. As a reminder, I know I keep like killing you guys with all this information on the skew, but remember many, many years that I was trading, this was the norm. So this is where, extreme fear came into, and this was a great place to buy. And we have not seen that in almost 2 years. So the fear, only comes into this zone and then pushes back up. Then we have extreme greed when we're up here. But what I'm noticing is we're back to on the fear and greed, we're back to being greedy, but the skew is way down here. So it's completely different. Things are starting to change a little bit. And it's just a note, note to self that things aren't really lining up at the moment, which is really, really interesting. So just, something to think about. Also, guys, when I'm doing this, just remember it's just a useful tool for gauging all this stuff is. And none of these are, one indicator that I just look at and go, okay, I got to get into calls or puts. Basically, what I'm doing is I'm putting it all together in conjunction with everything, and that's how I get my market analysis and use my indicators. Okay, so basically, I need synergy of all this stuff, and that's why I love doing this broad market analysis. The next thing that's going to lead me to, again, fear and greed. I don't need to show you guys. It's at 62. It's at greed. It's moved up quite a bit. Basically, everybody got greedy and started getting only long. When the market participants are basically on the long side, then a lot of times they look to pull the rug, right? So just be aware. And so we're going to be aware by looking at, we're going to come over here and look at the ES futures. I love trading futures, but I also like using them for a very long time now to gauge where I need to be in my portfolio. So listen up, because even though you may not trade the futures, this is really a nice glimpse into the future, if you will. But also, if you want to trade futures, I trade them every single morning with the group. A lot of satisfied customers, trading with us in futures. I use a really straightforward process, and I would love to teach you guys if you are interested. It's just one of many things that I do here in the room. Okay. All right, so ES futures on the weekly, this is what it looks like. Surprisingly, it's going to look a lot like the SPY, right? Remember, one contract at the ES futures is 500 shares of SPY, so you're just leveraging. It's a leverage instrument, but it's fun as well. I like to trade using the micros, showing you guys how to make $100 a day, and trying to get to that goal of 25,000 for the year on micros. Okay. Where are we? Well, we're above the 618. You'll notice there's a little deviation between SPY, ES, and SPX. One of them we may be way above the 618. One of them we might be just at it, and so forth. That's just a difference. A lot of times when we do contract rollovers and stuff, prices change. But regardless, you can see here the ES futures are above the 618. That's a beautiful thing. Our next level that I'm looking at is 58 and a half. Far as your over under for this week would again be around that 56.50 level. If we're below the 618, then again sideways to down. If we're above the body of last week, so just like I showed you on the SPY, if we can get up and above 57.10, things start to look better. It is just an inside week, just like the SPY. I'm looking for either an inside and down or a inside and up. Now, I could sit here and go, what is the other alternative, John? What if the inside and up doesn't happen and the inside and down doesn't happen? Well, that would mean that this week's candle would have to close. Watch, let me give you something here. It would have to close within, something like this. and just be, a doji, a very indecision type candle. And I really hope that's not the case. So looking forward to seeing some sort of pivot in structure here. All right. All right, so that's what we have on the ES futures. That's, pretty much what I'm looking for. Just looking for structure and trying to ride that. Remember, the intraday chart is going to change every single day, but we do look at other charts like the daily. The daily worked really, really well last week to get you guys long. It worked all the way up into resistance. The only thing that I changed this week on this chart was I brought one of the trigger longs up, but also I just changed the resistance up into the trendy edge, which is underneath here. Going back to the way that we teach around the trendy edges, again, guys, this is resistance until proven otherwise. If it pops up towards here, I'm looking for the market to kind of roll over or go sideways to down. If for some reason we gap up and over this level, that's awesome. Then this is going to be support until proven otherwise. And again, 57.25 is the big level. That was my big level for last week. And it just kind of stayed around there and couldn't build a base above there. So that was okay. All right. Triggers, although they say long, they say short. On smaller time frames, I look for certain things in order to take those trades. Just please understand that this is not just a blind level that I just take a trade off of. Okay. And then we get into the 4 hour. You guys can see I didn't change anything here. Our support worked really well. We hit a sell zone, and that sell zone obviously stopped price. So we're stuck between these two opposing levels, and therefore it's just pretty choppy, and it's just a day trading environment for the moment. Okay. So my overall sentiment coming into the ES futures, guys, is definitely neutral because of the fact that we closed inside and we're not riding on an inside and up or an inside and down. We just kind of have to sit, hurry up, and wait, if you will. Okay. So more of an intraday type trading going into this week until one of those major levels change. Let's go ahead and go over into the NASDAQ futures. And once again, guys, I would kindly ask you to go ahead and hit that like button. I really appreciate it. It just lets me know that you guys appreciate what I do here on Sunday. And I've been doing this for a long time. It's just for fun. Um, and, again, I think the levels work really, really well. Let's go into the NASDAQ. So the NASDAQ on the weekly, same thing, came into a level, came into the trendy edge. It worked. We pushed up here. And if we look close, this is showing me, again, I could be off just a little bit, but it looks like we stalled right at the 618, so we need to get up and over this level. If we can, we could see 20,542 before we see some resistance. But let's, instead of even putting this level on there, let's just talk about it from the same way that we would on the SPY and the Qs earlier, is that we have this body here, and I want you to identify that level. And then we have the low end of the body for the close. So just draw a box here and make that a neutral, if you will, right? So it would look something like this. And you could do this on the SPY charts, you could do it on the ES charts, and you're going to use the top of 2 weeks ago and then the bottom of this past week. And this area is more of a day trading range, if you will, and it's also just neutral. Okay, so we could label that as neutral and we just kind of understand, hey, within these boundaries, we're just having fun making a little bit of money. Okay, so again, that's neutral. You guys can write that down, roughly. I didn't try to get perfect here, but 20,145 and then 20,200. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and go into the smaller daily with your triggers. Again, the triggers from last week worked really well. The only thing I really did here was bring up a couple triggers for the long side, and then I put a resistance line at the trendy edge. And then we have a short up here, but again, using smaller time frames to identify that. The one thing that I would note here on the NASDAQ is we came up and tested the 200 SMA, and that is resistance until proven otherwise. You guys can see that. We're just really in a channel. We haven't done a whole lot, and this is why I'm really neutral, but also open to having fun and intraday trading. Okay. Let's go ahead and move on into the 4 hour. This one's a little bit different because we haven't touched that upper zone for a while. Matter of fact, we came up and touched it way back here in March. This is what it looks like, and it's kind of, it's an ascending wedge. If you were to do something like this, And these type of formations are really elementary, if you will. They're some of the first things you start learning when you're trading, and a lot of people trade them. And the only reason I'm not a big fan of them is because everybody and their mama is doing the same thing and they're looking to do like a breakout trade. But one thing that you got to realize is that on this, for me, anyways, the better way to trade this is buying zones and buy levels and trendy edges to the downside. And then as we get higher on the curve towards this breakout, that's actually where I want to be trimming and only sitting in profits in case some reason it doesn't break out of here. Regardless, the zone is there to help identify where we might see rejection in the market. We have tested it, so it could be weak, but for the moment, guys, we are coming into this week underneath, far as Friday was concerned. I don't know where we're opening, but these were your future edges on the close on Friday. And anytime we are under them, we are looking, just like I said on the SPY and the Qs, you're looking for sideways to down until we can get above. And if we're above that, then that becomes support. So if we gap above that, that's a good thing. But if not, then prices could just kind of chop around in here until we hear some kind of catalyst. A lot of times they'll come down, and this will be a buying opportunity in here. This is a level that I still really like on the Nasdaq. So for some reason, things don't go to the upside, I'll be a buyer down here. If for some reason we gap up into this area, I'm cautious. And if for some reason we open up flat, then I'm using these yellow lines here. Okay. And again, that's how I'm looking at. Remember, I don't go over this in the video, but every morning I open up and I make us a new chart for the day, an intraday chart, so that we know where to get long, where to get short. We use the PMZ. Your notes will be in the room, so the SPX room and the trendy room. All you have to do is go under the morning trend slash watches. Please go there every single morning to look at the charts and my overall blueprint, my sentiment, and so forth, and giving you the major levels. These are really, really handy. They work really well. And you guys can see that, and we understand that. I know you've been around for quite some time. Okay. So, anyways, that's that. Now let's go ahead and get into Bitcoin futures. So far, I mean, this thing was looking hot. We hit our targets, which I'm really happy about. And those targets, let's get over here. We're right here. All right. Now I had this on the monthly, but one thing that I wanted to point out here, and let me bring in let me just look at my All right, so Bitcoin's trading on Robinhood at around 104,000. So it's up just a little bit here. It was pushing really nicely on Saturday, but one thing I want you to notice is this big pivot that was made. So we made an inside and up formation. Again, the quarterly is what we're on. We still have some time until the quarter closes, so this could change at any time, guys. But what this is indicating at the moment is this thing is about to break the hell out if we can stay above here. All right. Now, I personally was thinking we would get closer to the 9 EMA, and we got pretty close. And then we turned, which was okay because my last ad on Bitcoin was 86,000. Let's go over here to a monthly really quick right there. Yeah, and I mean on the monthly, you guys can see we came into the cloud and the cloud held, but we had like this really big chaotic candle here, so I was kind of thinking we might come into there, but I still took my shot at around 86, which was, close to support. I think I waited a little bit. Kind of wish I would have got a little bit lower. I'd have to double check, but I want to say 86, but I could be getting confused with Nvidia. I also bought Nvidia at 86. So let me actually, while we're sitting here, sorry to take up your time. Oh, my average cost is 79, and my last buy, let me see. Here we go. My last buy was actually 81. So I was wrong. It was 81. All right. So yeah, so things are going really good, guys. Things look good. Round and bottom, man. We just need to get up and over that high, but very nice breakout on Bitcoin futures. Listen, folks, if I haven't told you enough, I really appreciate you. Thank you for taking your time out on this beautiful Sunday to listen to me. I hope that it helps you. My overall sentiment, I gave you the major levels, the SPY and the Qs, the Nasdaq and the ES futures. I gave you the earnings calendar and also the macroeconomic, gave you the dollar, and everything is just pointing to, eh, we've had a nice run. We're sort of neutral. Everybody's just weighing in and looking for something positive to come from the POTUS that would, spark some kind of big push in the market. And so everyone's just kind of sitting on their heels. If I were you, I would just be paying attention to the levels. I'm neutral until we can get up and over those trendy edges and those levels I talked about. I hope that it helps you going into this week, guys. I can't wait to see you. Let's get tomorrow, 30 minutes before the market opens. Thanks so much. Bye.